Welcome to Did You Hear That? Your source for the top stories from the Star Wars universe. I'm Pete Fletzer, and along with my co-host Nick Milkey, we'll break down the biggest headlines of the week and share our thoughts on everything happening in that galaxy far, far away. Don't forget, you can catch us live every Thursday evening on our weekly show, ATG Live, over on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@the-SSW Network. Join the conversation, hear from special guests, and get the latest news as it happens. And now, this week there was a trailer that dropped for a new documentary. We lost a legendary producer. There's a new Lego set, and Star Wars Rebels is celebrating its 10th birthday. So let's get to it. The trailer for the highly anticipated documentary called Music by John Williams dropped a little bit earlier this week. Just 1 month ahead of its release, the film will have a limited theatrical run in late October, followed by its Disney Plus premiere on November 1st. Produced by Lucasfilm, Amblin Documentaries, and Imagine Entertainment, three powerhouses. Directed by Laurent Bozereau, the documentary explores the prolific life of legendary composer John Williams, whose work has earned him 54 Oscar nominations and 5 wins. It's not a great batting average, but I'll tell you what, 5 Oscars, 54 nominations. I think it's at a point where they just they nominate him and they're like, he's got enough. Music with John Williams will feature interviews with filmmakers and artists impacted by his iconic scores, including his work in major franchises like Star Wars. The documentary highlights his contribution to film and concert music, as well as his influence on popular culture. The film will officially open at the AFI Fest on October 23rd, with tickets available to the public starting later this month. Nick, we have sort of a running joke about how much we love John Williams here, but did you check out the trailer?
I teared up when I saw the trailer. There's a little bit of, the few moments in our life nowadays when online buzz happens and you see something like, oh, I need to check that out. And it's not just like garbage on fire. I had woken up and I don't really think I even knew this was coming. Like, this was a complete surprise to me. And I saw the chatter online. Oh, there's a John Williams documentary. And again, I've said too many times how much of a sucker I am for behind the scenes and documentaries and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I watched that trailer and I just teared up, and it was not for any one specific thing other than, people said it in the thing. It may have even been Spielberg. These are the soundtrack of my life. Yeah. All the things that I've watched, all the things that I've loved, things that my kids love. Home Alone is a tradition at our house. That's John Williams. Jurassic Park. Like, there's so many things. Saving Private, it's covered such a wide range of, his work has covered such a wide range of my life, that it just made me happy. And to see, his son was on there in one of those clips. Yeah. And for the people that don't know this, his son is, he's the lead singer of like a rock band that we all know. And
is he really?
Yeah, he is. But it's one of those things that it makes me happy. It's a calendar markdown date for when is this going to show up? When do I get to watch it? I'm actually hopeful that it'll be at a theater around where I live. I'm not sure that will be the case, but he's the maestro. And I will say one of the key moments in my life of being fans of things.
Wait a second. He was the lead singer of Toto?
That's it. Toto. Yes. John Williams' son is the lead singer of Toto. Yes. That's it. Yeah. Boom.
What?
Yes. John Williams' son, the lead singer of Toto. But yeah, being at Celebration in Anaheim, a couple 3 years ago, and being in that room when he came out on the stage and they had a birthday celebration for him. Yeah. And it was one thing that John Williams was there and Harrison Ford was there. And they, he started out, he played the theme for Kenobi, but then he was like, oh yeah, we have to play this other thing. And they play the freaking Raiders March, and Harrison Ford comes out, and my whole life just, compared, all crystallized into this one moment of, holy crap. I love John Williams. That's no secret. And our running joke is a lot of because I toast to him every third week in our toast.
So I gotta ask, we have to take, let's take Star Wars and Indiana Jones off the table real quick. What is your favorite John Williams soundtrack other than our two favorite franchises?
It's a top. Well, and I don't know if I can go full soundtrack, but I can go songs. Okay. it's a toss up between the Jurassic Park theme and the ET theme.
Yeah.
The bicycle theme, and then that Jurassic Park theme is bananas. Like every time, that huge crescendo of that moment. Saving Private Ryan is probably his best, other than Star Wars and Indy, overall soundtrack, just because there's so much, weight and gravitas to what that film is. Yeah. And that's what I can't wait to see in the documentary, is how he's able to intuitively, as a musician, find that strand that ties it together. Like that's literally what he does. There have been, as some of the newer movies came out, they've released soundtrack only versions. Like you can watch the soundtrack only version of Last Jedi on Disney Plus, and it's phenomenal. If you flip that the other way and watch the movie without the music, it's not that great.
It's not the same, for sure. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, cool. Let's hit another story, because there's been more news this week. Earlier this week, it was announced that Robert Watts, the producer of the original Star Wars trilogy, had passed away at the age of 86. Watts was an essential figure behind the scenes of some of the most iconic films in history. He worked as the production supervisor on Star Wars in 1976 and 77, before serving as the associate producer on The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Watts later took on the role of producer for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade. Jedi News credits, and this was interesting, that they credit Watts for suggesting that his half-brother, Jeremy Bulloch, audition for the role of Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back. Watts was also praised by longtime friend and production designer Robert Christian, who noted that Watts was instrumental in helping George Lucas and the team bring Star Wars to life. Watts remained active in the industry and attended the London premiere of the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny last year. His influence on film history and his warm relationships with colleagues will always be remembered. Nick, I think this is one of those situations, and one of those, I found out about his passing through our friend David Whiteley, who posted about it, because he was an active part of the story that Britain made, the galaxy that Britain made, which was a fantastic documentary, which is nearly impossible to find because it's BBC only, and I can't find it on YouTube. But I have seen it just because I'm friends with David. But it's one of those situations where Star Wars, two things, and this is going to sound a little bit morbid, but Star Wars is going to be 50 years old. The people who were behind the scenes, who brought our favorite original trilogy to life, are starting to pass. And the good news, bad news, right? And to put a positive spin on it, is we are now hearing stories about people who we may not have heard of, who without, we would not have gotten these films we absolutely love.
It's incredible. And that article and what you talked about highlighted it. But I just want to run through this very quick. I want to run through the things he worked on as a production, either producer or production manager. 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Wars: A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Return of the Jedi, Temple of Doom, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Last Crusade, American Tail, Fievel Goes West, and the movie Alive, which, if you remember, is about the soccer team that crashes in the Andes.
Yep.
Which was a huge movie in 1993. This is a guy that hits home runs, and this is a guy that has been connected and involved with so many things. And he's the one that shows up in every documentary you watch. If it's, Empire to what's the original kind of OT documentary?
The Empire of Dreams.
Empire of Dreams. Yeah. He's in there. He's wearing that purple striped shirt. I can see him right now.
Yep.
And he's that guy that is he's a cornerstone. He's a rock of what so many of these things that we love are built on. It's also funny that at some point in college, when I started really paying attention more to the documentaries and I watched this, I will be perfectly honest, I had a small moment where Robert Watts and Charlie Watts, the drummer from the Rolling Stones, somehow got wires crossed in my head that I was like, wait, is he also like, I had a moment where I didn't quite sort them out, but Robert Watts was amazing and had so much impact on so many things that, again, we're here talking about right now.
And I think that speaks to the legacy of Star Wars and Indy and all the things he was a part of, and all of those movies that we grew up with. We all want to leave a mark on this world, and you realize that these guys have done it, and we
Absolutely
have to
did. And
we have
so,
to be thankful for what we got from them. So
yeah,
cheers to
another
them.
toast in the middle of the show to Robert Watts.
Well, we have even more news, Nick. Lego. Haha, my favorite thing to waste money on. Lego has announced the release of the Star Wars Ultimate Collector Series Jabba's Sail Barge set. Jabba's Sail Barge set. Easy for me to say. Launching on October 3rd, 2024. That's yesterday. The highly detailed set has 3,942 pieces, and it brings Jabba's notorious barge from Return of the Jedi to life. The set includes intricate features like fold-down sides, a removable top deck, and a fully detailed interior complete with Jabba's throne, a prison cell, kitchen, and armory. In addition to the design, the set comes with 11 minifigures, including iconic characters like Jabba the Hutt, Princess Leia in her prisoner outfit. There's been a little bit of controversy about that. R2-D2 and even Max Rebo. So our friend Tommy Stella will be extremely happy about that. As a bonus, Lego insiders will have early access to the set, which started yesterday. The general public can get it starting on October 6th. The set will be $500, $499. In celebration of the release, Lego is also offering a promotional gift. Buyers will receive a Luke Skywalker lightsaber mini set with their purchase. While supplies last, fans and collectors alike are eager for this long-awaited return of Jabba's Sail Barge following its last appearance in Lego form 11 years ago in 2013. Nick, I know you are not as much a Lego guy as I am, but what are your thoughts on sets like this one?
It's very cool. And when I saw that it was announced, the first thing I thought was, ooh, this is going to be a problem for Pete. Like, it makes me happy that people who, and I get it, like you and I've talked about before, and you've done some of your Lego building streams.
Yeah.
It is one of those things that it's just cool. And it's, relaxing. And I've got some friends, and it's Lego across the board. And just to go off the topic for a half a second.
Yeah.
I've got friends who are professionals, and they buy like the Lego bonsai tree, and they buy the Lego cherry blossom tree. And they're like, it was so calming and peaceful for me to sit in my office and build this and then put it on the shelf in my office. Yeah. And Lego gives you that. So when you get that as a Star Wars version, that's phenomenal. And when you get things, because if you didn't crowdsource the Hasbro Pulse, Jabba Sail Barge, this might be your next step. Yeah. It is very much one of those things that I look forward to enjoying in your collection, but it's cool. No question about it.
Yeah. It's one of the, it's funny. There's been the UCS sets I've really started to enjoy, because I find Lego in general to be very kind of relaxing, kind of therapeutic to do. Hey, KG. This size of this, so I have, as you can see behind me here, I did the Lego Interceptor earlier this year. I have the Lego UCS X-Wing. Those were 1,900 pieces. This one is 3,900
incredible.
So
how many was the R2? Do you remember?
The UCS R2? Here. I'm
that's
not
the
sure.
one. I don't have much in the way of Lego, but that's the one that I keep holding out one day that I need, because I love R2 so much.
Yeah, I can,
but I know one was, I remember it being a complicated build.
That was 2,300 pieces. Yeah. So and the UCS pieces are really cool, because they're there's a lot of detail, and the cool thing that Lego has been doing lately is putting like little Easter eggs in there and little things to find, so I was excited to see this, and also a little disappointed because holy cow, $500. So
very spendy.
So all right, we have one last news story tonight, and Nick, Star Wars Rebels is 10 years old. Yesterday marked the 10th anniversary of Star Wars Rebels, the animated series that first aired in 2014, captivating fans with its unique storytelling and expansion of the Star Wars universe set between Revenge of the Sith And A New Hope, Rebels followed a group of freedom fighters aboard the Ghost as they rise against the Galactic Empire. Created by Dave Filoni, the series introduced new beloved characters such as a Jedi in training Ezra Bridger, exiled Jedi Kanan Jarrus, and fan favorite Mandalorian warrior Sabine Wren. It also brought back familiar faces like Ahsoka Tano, Darth Vader, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Captain Rex, whose returns to Star Wars canon thrilled many longtime fans. Rebels received critical acclaim for its character development, deep exploration of the Force, and emotional story arcs that resonated with viewers of all ages. It also set the stage for future Star Wars content, with many characters and storylines continuing in The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and other live-action Star Wars. As fans celebrate the legacy of Rebels, its impact on the Star Wars galaxy is undeniable, and it has been a key chapter in bringing new Star Wars fans to the saga. Nick, you and I talk about this all the time. Rebels is not just a fan favorite, it's one of our favorites. The thing that I always recall about Rebels is I remember seeing this was before Disney Plus. I remember seeing the first images and I was like, oh man, it's just some goofy kid with he had a slingshot, a laser slingshot, and my thoughts honestly were this is not going to be for me. And by the time the second episode ended, Star Wars changed. And the thing that I remember, and I'd love your thoughts on this, watching those first two episodes, and so, I don't do big series rewatches. I haven't watched it from beginning to end. I've watched, arcs and segments. But the thing that I have watched multiple times are those first two episodes because it feels like a Star Wars movie. The pacing, the action, the humor, it was all captured in this brand new series.
I am famously on record for saying, and the only thing that comes close to this, if it was an ATG Live drinking game, other than talking about West Wing, there it is, Matt. That one's for you.
There you go.
Other than talking about West Wing, is Star Wars Rebels wasn't for me. I wasn't the target demo. I wasn't the age group. I came to it late. Like, it had already been on. It was on Disney XD, I think it was.
Yep, I think you're right.
It was
like at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, it was.
And
late.
I wasn't the stage of my life where I'm going to watch a Star Wars cartoon, as it were.
Right.
But when I found it and I watched it, I was transformed. It changed. It didn't change my life. Let's not get crazy. But it was so good, and I was hooked so quickly that it is literally, and remains to this day, along with The Last Jedi, my favorite Disney Star Wars thing that has happened. I love that show. I think I talk about it a lot. I rewatch it pretty regularly. As a collector, talking about Lego, talking about, the helmets, I've got a couple of them behind me. People have lightsaber hilts, and the people that have them all across their wall and all the different things, that's fantastic. I said from the time it happened in the show, there was only one lightsaber hilt that I wanted to have, and it was Kanan Jarrus. It was this one right here.
Nice.
And the amount of time it took for them to put it out through Disney to be at Galaxy's Edge, shout out to Brian and Holly Fry, who were able to source it for me, send it to me. I love Star Wars Rebels. I love that it's been around for 10 years. It still gets the love, and we still get to see. I mean, we've seen stuff about how, that little tease of Zeb that we got with our friend Carson Teva.
Yes.
In Mandalorian, Zeb's going to show back up in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, is what we've heard.
Yep.
It's such a great show. And honestly, and I think you were the first one that kind of said this in a way that I hadn't thought about. It's such a great lore story, and it's one of the cornerstones of Dave Filoni doing something that the title isn't really what it's about. It is Rebels. They are being rebellious, but there is such a great Jedi story in there with Kanan. To go back and read New Dawn, the Kanan and Hera, the very first canon Star Wars book, tie all those bits together. It's just great. There's going to be a podcast of the Wills at some point where I deep dive just on Rebels. But I love it, and I'm so glad that that's one of our news stories this week to celebrate 10 years of that show.
Yeah, it's and you're right. I say all the time that Empire Strikes Back is the most important Star Wars movie, because without Empire Strikes Back, you don't get the expansion of the lore, right? You don't get you get your first look at some of the details that became bigger stories, that became the prequels, that became all this other stuff. I think Rebels in some cases is very similar to that, in that it set up so many other types of characters, and the fact that Ahsoka was built on the back of Rebels tells you how important it was. The fact that it's the first real sort of animated to live action show.
Yes,
we all kind of know that. So if you watched Rebels, you know that Ahsoka is the final season, or the final chapter of the Rebels
third and fourth season. Well, and I want to pull up this comment from KG. She said, I feel that I don't typically like animation nowhere near as much as live action. And that's key. And we've talked about, with Bad Batch, the last season of Clone Wars, like the beauty of animation really is cool. They've done so much with it. The thing that I love so much and keyed in on also early on in Rebels is, and you can see the prints over my shoulder right here.
Yeah.
A lot of Rebels was built directly on Ralph McQuarrie concept art. You get those tall, long, lean stormtroopers. You get those designs in those buildings. You get like the pencil lines with the colored shading behind it. Like it was different than what the Clone Wars series had been. And it brought just another visual aspect to something that, again, we just love.
Which, by the way, a lot of people forget Clone Wars launched 16 years ago yesterday. Yep. It was exactly, 2008. It came out on October 3rd as well. Yep. So
lots of good anniversaries.
Thanks for tuning in to Did You Hear That? Remember, you can join us live every Thursday evening on YouTube at youtube.com/@the SSW Network for all the latest Star Wars news and conversations with special guests. This podcast stream is also home to Around the Galaxy, the weekly Star Wars interview show where we talk to the people behind the Star Wars fandom. Don't forget to connect with us on socials. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at the SSW Network, and on Facebook at facebook.com/the SSW Network. You can also support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/the SSW Network, or leave us a voicemail at 504-321-1501. That's 504-321-1501. Don't miss out on the excitement, and we'll see you next time Around the Galaxy. This podcast is copyright 2024 Pete and the Seed Studios, and our music is by the band Apollo's Ghost.